Flaherty.
Good evening, everybody. It's Tuesday, August 9th. This is the regular meeting of the Planning and BOZA Commission. If you'll establish a quorum, please.
Beverly Blankenship.
Here.
Dennis Flaherty.
Here.
Ed Leswig.
Present.
Jim Morris. Susan Chamberlain.
Here.
Mickey Schneider.
Here.
Brad Banachek.
Present.
Okay. If y'all stand for the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, first is approval of the minutes from July 26th.
Move to approve the minutes of July 26, 2011.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Are there any additions or changes? Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we are opening as the Board of Zoning and Adjustment at this time. I'd like to take a motion to approve the agenda. No motion to approve the agenda? We can't even discuss it without a motion and a second. You can vote it down, but you can't even discuss it without a motion.
I'll move to approve the agenda for the Board of Zoning Adjustment.
I'll second his motion.
Okay, there's a motion and a second for the approval of the agenda. Since there seems to be some question about it at this point, I would like for you to turn in your code books, please, to 193. Yes, Mr. Leswick?
I would draw your reference and everybody else's to the deadline for meeting agenda, which is part of the rules and regulations of the Planning Commission and Board of Zoning Adjustment, wherein it states that all business to be carried must be at least 7 days prior to the meeting, that the chairman shall have, in addition, shall have the exclusive The chairman shall have the discretion to add an item to the agenda after the deadline for discussion. But such addition shall be for the exclusive purpose of reviewing the matter with the commission. No vote may be taken on any item not filed in the timely manner.
And those are in our rules, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Now, would you please...
Therefore, if I could finish?
Sorry, I thought you were.
Therefore, I make a motion that we amend the agenda of the Board of Zoning Adjustment to make new business item 1 a discussion of a tree removal appeal.
And I'll second that.
Okay, there's a motion and a second, not for approval, but for discussion. Before we take a vote on that, I would like for you to turn in your code book to page 192. Because what we need to make sure that we do is follow the code and follow the code correctly. What Mr. Leswick brought to you were the rules and regulations for this commission. Fine them $50. Okay, on page 192, now this is code, and this is the section about tree preservation, okay? The city building inspector shall, which means he has to, the city building inspector shall deny any application which does not comply with all the conditions set forth. Okay, right on number 2 it says he can issue permits up to 10 trees, okay? So this was over 10 trees. So the city building inspector shall deny it, which he did. Then, if you'll turn over to, I think it's on E. So it has been denied, and it talks about an automatically. Still on D it says, for any reason shall be automatically appealed to the Board of Zoning Adjustments, which shall have the sole and exclusive authority to permit the removal of any trees notwithstanding the conditions of this subsection. Okay? So that's what happened. It was automatically appealed. Then if you read in E, it says an appealed application shall be forwarded to the Board of Zoning Adjustment along with a written statement from the building inspector setting forth the reasons for the denial, and shall be placed, which will be placed on the agenda for the next regularly scheduled meeting. Then it goes on to say the publication of our agenda showing the proposed tree removal along with the address or approximate location of the site shall constitute, for the purpose of this ordinance, notice that the Board of Zoning Adjustment will take public comment from the public in regard to the application. Following the public hearing, the Board of Zoning Adjustment shall review the application and shall, which means we will, by majority vote, accept, deny, or modify the application. So you tell me, does that say, Ms. Schneider?
Okay. For the purpose of this ordinance, notice that the Board of Zoning Adjustment will take comments from the public. We were notified late yesterday afternoon. The public does not know. So when we have a public comment or time on this, at, I'm assuming the next meeting, that would be when we take comments from the public and make a decision.
Mr. Lestwick?
Yes, I think that in order for it to appear on the next meeting of the Board of Zoning Adjustment, it has to make the deadline to be on the agenda.
And to
And
give public
since
notice.
the application was not rejected until the 5th of the month, it's kind of hard for it to be there on the 1st of the month. So it was impossible for it to be here in time for this meeting.
Well, the public couldn't be notified.
Mr. Banachek?
Yes, I actually believe that at this point, if that's the way the regulation reads, we actually have a small point of order. This isn't a regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Zoning Adjustments. In February 2010, the Board of Zoning Adjustments and the Planning Commission voted for our regular meeting dates to go to quarterly meetings for the Board of Zoning Adjustments, unless there was an actual application. This is an appeal, which isn't really covered, and if it specifically says the next regularly scheduled meeting, then that would be October. So if we're going to follow that code, then I would think that we would need to put this off till October.
When did you make the vote for Boza to?
February 25th, 2010.
But what about this year's when you set your regular scheduled meetings?
I believe we voted to follow the, and I have those, I'd have to look at those minutes specifically to make sure that we carried on the same schedule as the previous year. But to the best of my recollection, there was a vote to have no change in the meeting dates.
Mr. Morris?
I think Mr. Banachek is right. However, somewhere in there, and I don't remember exactly what it was, there was a provision that if something came up, that we could do it on a discussion basis. We can't take any action, but we could discuss things. Is that not correct? That we could not accept it as an item on the agenda, except at the next regular scheduled meetings.
As I said, I believe that the discussion had been towards if there had been an application, and I think this would have been a gray area that we didn't really foresee, were the automatic appeals from the building inspector on the tree cuts. That wasn't something that we specifically discussed. I think at the very least then we should delay until our next meeting to clear up that matter as to whether or not an appeal would file as an application, whereas an appeal can be handled differently.
Ms. Chamberlain?
Well, I'm going to go back to the beginning of the book where it gives us the deadline for meeting agendas. And it tells us that the chairperson can constitute something that they consider an emergency. And then it goes through that little subsection. However, it talks about also public hearings when it comes to these kinds of things for BOZA. And it has to be published. It has to have enough notification. It has to either be the Citizen, Carroll County News, that kind of thing. And quite frankly, the standards for application are also in those first few pages. I'm looking at page 3 and page 4. And so before we even get into codes, I'm just looking at the basis of which we have to adhere to things for the state of Arkansas. Forget about Eureka Springs.
I do have all the written applications and denial from the building inspector and all that. I do have all that information and why it was denied. We looked at page 192 and 193 in code, and because it says that if it was denied, it shall be placed on the agenda for the next regularly scheduled meeting, that is why it's on here.
But what I'm trying to say is that the scheduled meetings are supposed to be on file at the courthouse with enough room for public opinion. I'm looking at page 3 and page 4. And I don't find, in my estimation, whether I want to discuss this or not, I don't think we're adhering to the basis of what the state of Arkansas decides. Forget about what's been denied or not denied. The public hasn't had a chance.
Ms. Schneider?
I would not feel the least bit comfortable making a decision tonight on a tree cut without a chance for the public. They live here. They have the rights. We may be representing them, but if we haven't had but one day to hear anything and they haven't hardly heard anything, I will state emphatically right now, I will not make a decision tonight. I will feel free to discuss. I will not make a decision tonight without giving the public a chance to speak, as is their right and their duty.
Mr. Morris?
I appreciate that. And even if we chose to take action on it tonight, we can. So, but there's nothing that stops us from putting this on the agenda, discussing it tonight. Absolutely nothing.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, I can see a lot of benefit of it. We can get some feeling discussing it among ourselves. And you haven't had public comments yet on anything, have you? So anybody the public wants to comment about, they can comment about anything they wish to at the end of the meeting. So we're talking about transparency, how we all feel here, and I think we should at least enter into the discussion part of this, what we want to say, and if we don't want to say anything, the public can still make their opinion about it. To say, oh, we got to push this back. We right now are looking at the city council, and we look at what we've been pushing back, things such as the tree ordinance for 3 years because we can't come to any kind of agreement, and we're here to get things done, not to push things back. Now, I don't want to hurry into it either. People say, we don't hurry into this. We have some pretty rigid parameters that are set down for us to follow. There is absolutely nothing that can be done tonight as far as a vote. And as far as us postponing to the next regularly scheduled meeting, I will say this at this point. At the time that came up, there wasn't one person on this commission thought that we couldn't handle any zoning things for a 3-month period. That wasn't even in our mind. That's as if somebody wanted to apply for a zoning thing, there had been nothing that would happen. I don't think this has a whole lot to do with zoning. What we're talking about right now, whether we want a building there or not, we're talking about a tree cut. There is nothing in our provisions anywhere to stop us from discussing this and acting on it at our next regularly scheduled meeting where things can come up. Nowhere anybody that I've sat on the commission with for the last 3 years wanted to say, well, you can't do this once every 3 months. That isn't the intent of this body. It never was. And if it's been interpreted that way in the rules, we need to do something drastically about changing the rules. We're not here to delay something, whether we like it or not, or to rush something through, whether we like it or not. We're here to look at everything as a fair view of everything we do, listen to the citizens, listen to the applicants, look at it as a just legal, thank you, Susan, or Miss Chamberlain, for that. We have an obligation set down by our rules and by the state of Arkansas. And if a lot of you don't know it, a lot of those things changed on the 1st of July this year. As we are a city of the first class or second class or other special characteristics, some laws changed in the state of Arkansas on July 1st. It gives this commission power that you wouldn't believe, outside of the city limits by state law. Now, that's going to scare the heck out of a lot of people.
You better not go there. Point of order.
I have the quote here, where we're saying that from Jim Von Tungman when he talked with us. But we're not about to jump into that. We can't handle the issues before the city within the city limits right now. We've got a problem there. So I don't want anybody listening in to panic and say, oh my God, they're going to start doing it. But we have been given that power by the state of Arkansas. We don't want to do that. We don't want to cause a panic. But let's remember why we're here. We are a board of zoning. What's that last word we use?
Adjustment.
Adjustment. We are here to look at the laws, and it tells us we are obligated to do things in here when it would create a hardship for somebody else. If somebody has an application in here and we put it off for 3 months to act on it, that's a hardship. So we have, if we've got that rule, we need to reconsider that rule, number one. Number two, all we can do tonight is discuss. So,
Could you read the motion on the floor, please? Do you know where that might have been?
I'm not sure there was a motion.
Yes, there
the
was
motion
two.
to discuss.
One was to approve the agenda, and the next one was
It says,
For Boza.
to approve the agenda
Just
for Boza, and then there was another motion to only
to change it to discuss the tree
discuss
removal.
the tree removal. And that is the motion on the table, to discuss the tree removal.
You are correct.
And so we're trying to get the approval of the agenda with discuss the tree removal instead of make a decision on that.
Thank you.
Okay, that's where we are. So we are at approving the agenda with discussing the tree removal. Is there anybody that needs to make a comment on this part before we vote? Schneider.
Would we need to include on there, I got confused. Okay, when you're saying the next regularly scheduled meeting, is that of BOZA as opposed to planning?
whatever it is.
Okay.
Yes.
Should we make our motion in regards to discussion tonight with postponing a decision to the next regularly scheduled planning commission?
When
They shouldn't
we-
have to wait until October. That's what I'm
When
asking.
we discuss
separate.
this, we can make
Then
a
we
motion
can.
to put it on the next
Okay.
agenda.
As opposed to October. Okay.
Chamberlain?
Point of order, do we have a 60-day time clock starting as of the point that we begin discussion?
Huh?
Isn't there a 60-day time limit from the beginning of discussion? We asked.
Oh.
From where would you get that?
Things that I read. Okay, so we have no time limit that we have to change anything or be sure that we go through any of this just because we start discussion.
No, the laws that we have say, you know, I want to tell you, it's not that I'm trying to rush anything through. I wasn't trying to do anything illegal when they asked me to put this on. We all stopped, read the book, and tried to do what we believed that it said to do. Okay? It said that if they apply to the building inspector and it's over 10 trees, he shall deny it. That means he will deny it. Then it goes on and says there will be an automatic appeal to the Board of Zoning Adjustment, okay? Once it said that, it says then that appeal shall be put on the next regularly scheduled meeting. I believed that to be this one, and I didn't want to do what was not right, okay? I'm not God. I don't, know all about it. So all of you can help me in that. If you feel like this is not the next regularly scheduled meeting, then we will put it off to the next one. That's why I'm trying to tell you. I tried to follow the code and do it the best that I saw. It said it shall be placed, and we shall do things. It tells us that, okay?
But you didn't know about the delay.
But Mr. Leswick is saying, this wasn't the next regularly scheduled because our agenda would have already been stopped. So, that's where we are.
First, I want to apologize for being late. I dropped my phone at the site visit, went back to get it, and blew a tire out there trying to find it. So, right here, that's why I'm late. But,
You're driving your car, you might have
so all we're asking for right now is an approval of the agenda so we can get on with business. If we bring this up and say we don't want to discuss it, we can do that. But we can't go any further without approval of the agenda.
Correct. With the amended agenda.
For discussion.
And the other thing I wanted to say is remember, we're not here to look at the letter of the law, but the spirit of the law. Why was the law written? What's the reason? We're here to look at that. Not, well, it says this, and we didn't dot that I, so we make changes as we go along.
That's correct. And when this law was written, Board of Zoning Adjustment did meet monthly, and the governing body did not want things to have to wait for a very, very long time, and that's why it said it will be put on the next one. Okay. Mr. Banachek?
I would move to call the question.
We have to vote on that. Can we just, there has to be a second, and we have to vote on
I'll
it.
second. Let's just vote.
We have a motion to approve as discussed, so let's just vote there. We already had a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
And I seconded.
Okay.
Correct.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
As amended, how?
To discuss only.
We put discuss only
Tree
under new
removal
business.
discussion.
Nay.
Okay, 2 noes.
And what's yours, Mom?
Yes.
Okay.
5 yeses.
Yes, 5-2.
Okay, our agenda for BOZA has been approved. We are now taking public comments. Is there a sign-up
Let me
sheet?
go see and make sure there's nobody else.
Okay, I'd like to say to the public, each person will have 3 minutes to speak. This is the Board of Zoning Adjustments. It is just about a tree cut permit at this point. We're just going to discuss it tonight. We're not going to make a decision tonight about that. But this is your time to speak if it's about trees. We do have a planning commission meeting after this meeting. There's also public comment there. Just so we're all clear.
The city council asked us to bring the easement, sewer easement question to the commission also, to the board.
No.
Is that a separate agenda item?
Yeah, we're not doing that.
No discussion on that here?
I think you and Public Works are going to take care of that.
Okay.
I don't think we have to do anything about easement.
Will that easement affect the tree cutting?
It's not on this property.
They can present that.
Let's do,
You can present it, but Public Works is going to take care of it. Okay. Lanny Blantz.
Evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Most of you know me. I am Laney Balance.
Sorry.
One of the only reasons I knew this was all going on was, as a member of the public, is because I'm so closely associated with the whole thing, and I've been keeping a real close eye on it. But I'm positive there are more people who would really like to have a moment of your time to let you know how they feel about this whole deal. And some will be for it, and some will be against it. Just want to take a few minutes of your time this evening to go over some of your codes with you. Some that I thought were rather pertinent and I hope you'll really take under consideration. Let's go back here. Under tree preservation, we see in 79203 application.
Okay.
In my book, it's 209. I don't know what it is in your book, but it is 79203.
Nope.
We're talking about it, application. And under E, the last sentence in that paragraph says, following the public hearing. Following
She's
the
on
public
193.
hearing.
Ours is not different number. She has an older code book.
Yeah, I do. Under E, it says an appealed application shall be forwarded to the Board of Zoning Adjustment along with a written statement by the building inspector setting forth the reasons for the denial and shall be placed on the agenda of the next regularly scheduled meeting. The publication of the Board of Zoning Adjustments agenda showing the proposed tree cut removal along with the address and approximate location of this site shall constitute, for the purpose of this ordinance, notice that the Board of Zoning Adjustment will take comments from the public in regard to the application. Following the public hearing, don't you have to send out notices for public hearing and let the...
What you just read, though,
That's what we already
what
talked
you
about.
just read,
That's
though, said that for the purpose of this ordinance, notice that the Board of Zoning Adjustment will take comments from the public in regard to the application. Is that notice? Because there's other parts and chapters in our book that says how specific you have to do it and how you have to send out
Right.
notices, and that's for if they get denied for CUPs or other things. But this part specifically says that our publishing of that agenda is the public's notice.
Your publishing of that agenda. Isn't the agenda supposed to be published a week or so many days before the meeting? That's pretty gray zone. Well, anyway, at the end of that paragraph it says, following the public hearing, the Board of Zoning Adjustment shall review the application and shall, by a majority of vote, accept, deny, or modify the application. So to me that says you have the option to deny if you wish to. If you don't think you have enough information, if you think this has been rushed through. It also says down here in section G, once an application for a tree cut permit has been denied by the Board of Zoning Adjustment, such action cannot be reconsidered for a period of 12 months after the original decision. Under 7.92.04, we see removal of tree. The Board of Zoning Adjustment shall have the authority to prohibit the removal or destruction of any tree or to impose conditions or restrictions with regard to any application appealed to it to ensure the compliance with this article or to preserve environmental, aesthetic, or historic characteristics of the land or to protect adjacent property. So you can deny this to preserve environmental characteristics of the land. Folks, this is going to be a big tree cut. There's, in case you haven't been out there to look at it, there's a lot of trees out there.
3 minutes.
I certainly hope you do look at that very, very closely. That will be a large loss of canopy. So, for
Thank
the
you.
environmentally aware among you, I think that's an important thing. So, I think that was it as far as that. Of course, we have all the excavation and alterations and
Spend
fill
3
and so
minutes.
forth. So, the one more thing I'd like to tell you is, under your parking
Spend 3 minutes.
requirements,
Laney,
I believe your
please.
time is up, Ms. Balance.
retail large parking plan shall be submitted to the Planning Commission for approval.
Limit on speakers. I think it should be
Thank
here.
you. Appreciate it.
Regardless
Appreciate you.
Thank
Please
you.
read
Of
this
who
out.
you are?
Thank you. Thanks, folks.
Thank you. Pat Matsukis.
I'm going to put a bumper on that thing.
Pat Matsukis, 5 Mountain. It's hard to even speak on this project because haven't seen it, had to work till 6, heard about it the other day. Everybody in the world is behind on this project. People are just in town, are just now becoming aware of this. So I beg you, from the bottom of my toes, go slow. We are talking about a bigger issue than just the placement of a store. We're talking a big story here. And it's imperative that you are our guardians to guide us through this in a great way. So I ask you to go slowly, leave no stone unturned in your quest for information. Besides where this project is going and the trees, the drought we've had this summer, the environment as a whole, your master plan, the people that live behind this project that haven't even had a chance to come out yet because they don't even know about it. I just called some people today. I'm disappointed that I didn't read it anywhere. I looked all weekend, didn't see it on the city website. Where was it published? Not enough notice. You got to include the public. Government has to move slowly so it includes the people. Business doesn't have to. Business does what business wants to do, and that's the blessing of business. Government has to go slowly so you can include all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Pat. Jay Morgan.
I'm Jay Morgan, and I guess I would be the closest house to this project. And I had no idea that it was even going on. I came home tonight to see everybody standing in the lot and immediately went into what's going on. So I'm a little confused about how the process is going. I would need to get more background information. Because it changes my world. I mean, you were involved in me buying this house less than a year ago, and you know that I bought it for what it is. None of this figured into that. And so if I could stay involved some way to at least know that there's not going to be a traffic danger and that there's not going to be, I don't get set out in the middle of a dirt lot, I'd appreciate that. And so whatever you can do to help me get up to speed on where you're planning to go with this, I would appreciate it.
Where is your home located?
13 Cloud. If you drive right down past the church, I'm the first house you come to. Oh, let me knock this over for you.
It's okay. Thank you, Mr. Morgan. Thank you. Okay, that's all for public comments. We have no unfinished business. Our new business is to discuss the tree removal appeal. Do I have a motion to discuss?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to discuss the tree removal appeal, which you will just be given information. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed?
Nay.
2.
2.
5 to 2. Okay, so today we're going to get information. We do have some people here to show us pictures of the trees. I mean, we've been there. We saw that. I do have the application that they turned in. I do have the denial from our building inspector. They did follow every dot and T on that.
I'd like to see the application, please, Mr. Chairman.
The application?
Yes, ma'am.
And we did, as a commission, go to the site earlier at 5 o'clock to look at the site, to see the trees, to try to understand where it was. And it's, for those of you looking at home, it is from right next to the hoedown. And if you drive down the street, either one, by the hoedown or the one on the other side, one's Lightning Ridge, one's Thunder Ridge, there's a big flat section in the back, and then there's a part in the front that's built up that has trees on it. The big flat section in the back doesn't hardly have any trees, but there is a big difference in elevation from one to the other. So that's what we're talking about. Y'all want to do your show?
Thank you, Chairman Blankenship. I'm Stephen Giles. I'm here representing Walmart. And tonight I have with me Cliff McKinney, who drafted the easement, the sewer easement that we've been requesting that is off-site. It goes over city property. And then we have the engineer for the project, Elliot Reed of Cochran Engineering. And we would appreciate you considering the application to remove trees. It's an unbuilt site. The part in the front has never been built. Trees would have to be removed to do any kind of development on the site. And we've tried our best to do a plan where even though we have to remove trees, we have offered a tree replacement to the extent that we can satisfy your concerns. I mean, the site is going to be tight because it is a moderate-sized convenience store, essentially, and we have to comply with the city's parking requirement as well. But we do intend to landscape the site, and we would ask for comments or questions. We can answer questions. The engineers here, and we'd be happy. I just want to make the statement that we're only here because this is what we were told to do. We were at the city council meeting last night because we thought we had to go to the council first to get the permission to have the easement on the city property. Last week, yes, ma'am. And Ms. Blankenship was there and then explained to us that, no, we have to come. The city council said we want the commission to review the application for tree removal and the easement, and then come back to the city council at some later time for the final authority on granting the easement on city property. So.
Okay, so not to confuse you at this table or those watching, we're not doing anything with an easement. I'm not sure about the legalities of that, but that's a public works issue. That's not our issue here. We just are here to discuss the tree removal, and if we could see a picture of how it might be.
Sure. Elliot, you want to come
afterwards.
up here? Do you have a site plan that can be seen by everybody?
We got your pink and your blues and your blacks and your greens. We got that part.
Okay.
But you don't have a picture of how it's really going to look.
This is our preliminary site plan that we have submitted. It will be on the Planning Commission agenda. Basically, I'm sorry, my name's Elliot Reed with Cochran Engineering. We're the civil engineer on the project. The store is roughly 15,000 square feet. Obviously, it'll face the highway. We have the parking in front of the store, the truck dock on the side. We have access off of Thunder Road and an access off the highway. And the highway access has already been verbally approved by the highway department. We're leaving all of this in back undisturbed as much as possible. We'll have one unit in back, but we're not going to grade the backside of that property.
How many parking places?
We have 63 parking spaces.
What did you say the square footage of your building was?
14,869. And to speak to the tree removal, the site is very narrow, obviously, bordered by a Thunder Road and Lightning Ridge. So in order to get the proper amount of parking with drive lanes and access to both the highway and Thunder Road here, the trees need to be removed in front and on the side. And then, like I said, we're leaving the trees in the back of the site. If it was a wider site that we could have a narrower parking field and leave the trees on the side, we would, but it just is too narrow to.
Who determines how many parking spaces you need to have?
The city.
We do. That's in our code. When we get to the new construction review and our parking part, I'll be glad to show you that.
So we do the number of spaces per footage or something?
It's in our code, yes.
Thank you.
Do you have anything that shows where your landscaping is?
We do not at this time, no. What we have at this time is what I would call a preliminary site plan that we needed for submittal to the city for the parking review and the planning commission. And we have the tree removal exhibit that we had prepared also.
Right, that's our colored one that we have, so you know. Mr. Leswick, did you want to speak?
Just a general term that before I made a decision on any tree cuts, I'd be interested in seeing what your replacement plans are. At least in broad brush. You must do it tonight, obviously, but before I go on, I would have that one.
Okay, just so you know, who took my application? Can I have it back, please?
This one?
Okay. So the public knows, and I thought it was right here. It told me how many trees there was.
It's 117.
Okay. 117 trees is what they are asking to be removed, okay?
If I can expand that for you, Madam Chairman, it's 88 under 12 inches, 27 between 12 inches and 35, and 2 36 plus.
Correct. Okay, under 12 inches, 88. 12 to 35 inches, 27. And 2 over 36 inches, and one of those is partially dead. So that is what we're talking about. That is what we have to look at. I asked Glenna to look at what has been done in the past, and she could not find any times that this board had denied. Okay, I'm just giving you information.
We have had restrictions.
Correct. We have had restrictions.
We've certainly postponed for more information and a more
certainly.
clear plan for the landscaping afterwards and the opinion of an arborist, et cetera, so on and so forth.
Certainly, certainly. I just want everybody to know all the information that I have, and if you have more information, you could share it at this time too, because we all as a table have to make a decision about this eventually. I wish that when it came to this table, we didn't know whose name it was. You know, that would help us to make a more objective decision. You know, that you're going to be given a lot of information, and if we were in a court of law, the judge would say disregard, but once you hear it and understand it, it's hard for us to disregard. Okay, so what you have to do every time is go back to the laws that we have and try to go from there best as we can. In October last year, not every one of us per se, but the Board of Zoning and Adjustment approved 820 trees to be cut for the high school. We approved 36 trees to be cut on North Main. The cabins was more than that. They couldn't find the number. They couldn't find that piece of paper today because I asked them, you know, for precedence, what have we done? But it was over 90 trees for those cabins behind the Amish collection. You know, I have a lot of the last ones that were done, and I'm just saying, you know, if you took the name out of the equation, would you do the same or would you do different? Just saying, this is the information that I have and we have to live with.
Well, I would have to say, though, that the project really does have a bearing on whether or not the tree cut approval is gone through, and I think the main point on that